Hello, boys and girls. Today we are going to discuss equivalent fractions and decimals. So here is our problem. Daniel spent a day hiking through a wildlife preserve. During the first hour of the hike, he drank 6/10 liter of water. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? So, right now we're going to discuss equivalent fractions. So we know right now we're going to shade in our 6/10 right here. So that's 1/10, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what would be equal in the hundredths section. So we're going to write 6/10 as an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100. So we're going to find what hundredths is equivalent to 6/10. So now, if I were to fill in 6 rows on the hundreds grid, so that would be 1 row, 2 rows, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. So 60 hundredths would be equivalent to 6/10. So we can do it like this. We can look over here and when we multiply. So we think 6/10, okay, 10 times what is equivalent to 100 or equals 100? So I know that 10 times 10 is equal to 100. So what do I do to the bottom? I have to do to the top. So I multiply the bottom by 10 to get 100. So I can do 6 times 10 and get 60. So 6/10 is equal to 60 hundredths, as you can also see on this model as well. Let's look another way to do this. So we're still on our problem where Daniel spent the day hiking through wildlife preserve. So we're trying to find out how many hundredths of a liter he drank that is equivalent to the 6/10. So we're going to write it as a decimal. I think of 6/10 as 6/10 with 0 hundredths. And I put my decimal in, and I have no ones. So I look here. If you notice, this 0 does not matter in this column. If I put 1 here, it still keeps it's still equivalent. So I can put a 0 in the hundredths place and still make it 6/10 or 60 hundredths. So Daniel drank 6/10 or 60 hundredths as a decimal. So this 6/10, and here again 6/10, is equivalent to this. Let's try another. So Jasmine collected 3/10, or we read that as 30 hundredths liter of water in a jar during a rainstorm. How many tenths of a liter did she collect? So we know she collected 30 hundredths. So this right here would be 30 hundredths. So now we have to look at equivalent decimals, or decimals that name the same amount. You can write 30 hundredths as a decimal that names the tenths. Here we are, and we're going to write 30 hundredths as an equivalent decimal. So we're going to show it in the place value chart. So we're thinking there are no hundredths. So if there's no hundredths, 30 hundredths is equivalent to 30 hundredths is equivalent to 3/10. So you're going to write 30 hundredths as 3/10. Because on this part here, it does not matter. I can put as many zeros as I would like, and it's still going to be the same amount. So let's look at it. We're going to write 30 hundredths as a fraction with a denominator of 10. So 30 is 30 hundredths is 30 hundredths. So 30 hundredths written as a fraction would be 30 over 100. So now we're going to write 31 hundredths as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10. So this time we're going to a smaller denominator. In our last problem, we went from a smaller denominator to a larger denominator. This time we're going from a larger denominator to a smaller denominator. So that means we're going to need to divide instead of multiply. So 31 hundredths, again, is written as 31 hundredths. So we want to get it down to tenths. So now I have to think 10 divided by what is equivalent to 10 divided by what is equal to 10. And I know if I divide 100 divided by what is equal to 10. So 100 divided by 10 is equal to 10. So I know what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 30 divided by 10 is equivalent to 3. So therefore, Jasmine and we know that this 3/10, if I write it, is equal to 3/10. So Jasmine collected 3/10 or 3/10 liter of water. Pause the video and copy this down. All right, now I want you to pause the video and try these problems and then restart the video to see if you did it correctly. So you're going to write 4/10 as hundredths. So 4/10 as an equivalent fraction, 4/10 is equal to, well, how many hundredths? So I know 10 times 10 is equal to 100. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So 4 times 10 is 40. So as a fraction, 40 hundredths is equivalent to 4/10. As a decimal, if I write 4/10 and there's 0 hundredths, the decimal would be 40 hundredths. Good luck.